Welcome, everybody. This is the Global Student Voice Film Festival webinar for October 1st. We are looking ahead to the spring when we will be celebrating all kinds of wonderful. This is the Global Student Voice Film Festival webinar for October 1st. We are looking ahead to the spring when we will be celebrating all kinds of wonderful. Sorry about that. So here we are. We are working on these ideas, and what we want to do is we want to be able to share with you the kinds of things that you might want to be thinking about as we launch into our activities for getting students to enter this incredible program. So the first thing I want to do is I want to pass along to Kern Kelly from EdTechTeam the opportunity to introduce himself. Kern, up to you.
Hi there, thanks, Russian. So my name is Kern Kelly. I live here in Central Maine, and I'm Director of Student Agency for EdTechTeam. I'm really happy to be part of this Global Student Voice Film Festival. We started last year and continue on this year, and I will hand it over to Nathan.
Hello, everyone. I am Nathan Langrad. I am with the Student Voice Foundation, also with WeVideo, a platform that supports student creativity and student voice. Really excited to talk to you all today.
So what we've got for you is the opportunity to tell you a little bit about the rules, about our goals for this program, and some tips that we're going to have for helping you help your students make the best videos that they can. So with that, we are going to shift gears a bit and get a few slides up for everyone to see. This is recorded, so the idea is that you'll be able to share this with a lot of people around you who may also be interested in getting their kids interested in taking part in this. So what we would like to see just right off the bat is if you are participating, let us know who you are and where you are and what your role is. So over the coming 30 to 60 seconds, we will give you the chance to take part as we leap into that. And let us know, what brought you to this. We'll also give you the chance later in the broadcast to ask questions, but you are welcome to add those all along the way. So within the chat in our YouTube live program, you can put any question that comes to mind so that you don't forget it. We'll seek to answer as many of those questions as we can once we get to the end of the broadcast. And so with that, I would encourage you, if you haven't gotten your name in yet, to go ahead and add it, and I will get us going as we launch into this plan for the Global Student Voice Film Festival. So there are 4 organizations that team together to make this happen. The lead is EdTechTeam. EdTechTeam makes all kinds of great professional development happen all over the world. ISTE, the International Society for Technology and Education, most famous probably for its summer conference, ISTE, which goes around the United States and brings dynamic educators together from all over the world. WeVideo, perhaps the most sophisticated online video editing tool available online for both free and for paid versions. You can learn more about WeVideo from Dr. Langrad as we get a little farther into it. And my little organization, Next Vista for Learning. My name is Rushton Hurley. I'm the founder and executive director of nextvista.org, where we celebrate creative approaches to learning and teaching from people all over the world. So with that, I'd like to welcome all of you who are taking part, and I want to start by handing it over to Nathan so he can tell us a little bit about the goals of the film festival. Nathan, it is in your hands.
Thanks, Rushton. Really looking forward to not only seeing the submissions and all the great videos that we created, but I think more importantly, want to talk about why we are doing this film festival and the goals for this event. So the first goal that we have is really centered around writing. And a great video is great because we believe it's well planned, and getting feedback on the draft process is a vital part of the video creation process. Another part of writing, you may have heard this term before, called storyboarding. It's a process of visually representing and sequencing your ideas. So planning and writing is very, very important to the video creation process. The next goal that we have is attribution. And being well educated means knowing which thoughts are yours and which are from others. So by citing your sources properly, you are showing both an appreciation for your role with the intellectual property of others and also an academic maturity you'll need more and more as you get into your schooling and, of course, beyond school and into your career. The next goal we have is around excellence. And we believe people do things really well because of practice, and crafting a message and a story is very, very important to creating a successful video. It's more than just finding the best shots and the best music. It's really more about the story that you are creating and sharing your voice to that story. The next goal we have is creativity. And many students love video projects because it allows them to really tap into and develop their creative talents. Watching what others have done can give you ideas, and you can build on those ideas and take it to the next level and own that work. And the last goal we have is celebration. And we believe a film festival like this one is designed to highlight the strong work of you all, the students around the globe. And we hope that you will take the opportunity to push yourselves with this project in this competition, and that we'll all be able to celebrate everything that you have done and your story. And those are just some of the goals that we have for the film festival. So we'll hand it back over to you, Rushton.
Thanks, Nathan. So we're going to take a bit of a deep dive on the rules. So this is one of those spaces where you get involved in a particular contest or film festival and you wonder, okay, are those rules something that they're just saying in order to make sure they've said it, or are they really serious about it? Well, you're going to find out that we're quite serious about the rules that we have in our little festival. And we hope that it's stuff that will help you, help your students develop some really good habits as well. So basically, let's start with just the time length. The story must be told in 60 seconds or less. Now that's pretty challenging, right? 60 seconds or less. On the other hand, the idea is for people to really craft a good story. And so the less time you have, often the better the planning becomes as people begin to stop and say, how do we want to make that work? How do we get this message across in this time frame? You also have up to another 30 seconds for credits. Credits are very, very important. We'll talk about that in much more detail in just a minute. But when we say you've got up to 90 seconds, you've only got 60 seconds for the story. You can use up to another 30 seconds for credits. And this is open to students all over the world. If you are between age 5 and 18, grade K to 12, you are welcome to take part in this program. We divide everything up into the lower grades, middle grades, and upper grades. And we hope that we will get a lot of representation from all sets and from all areas of the planet. Now, the films must be in English. If they are not in English, if they have English subtitles, that's okay as well. A really good story is a really good story, not so much because it conforms to one particular linguistic or cultural point of view, but because it can be conveyed to as wide an audience as possible. For the people we have judging, we need to stick to the English side of things. So if you are doing a little bit of extra work to add your subtitles and all, we want you to know we appreciate that. Now, there is a theme. You have to speak to a theme. So our our festival theme this year is activating change. Now, activating change, you might say, well, that's a little broad. You know, there's a lot of ways you could take that. And I would simply say, precisely, there are. So as we begin to get into this, we'll talk a little bit more about the idea of how you approach a theme. But for the most part, as long as you can convey that your theme of your video addresses the theme of the festival, you are doing what you need to do. You're going to find all of our rules at studentvoice.org, studentvoice.org. And that's where you're going to get the details on this as we go. Now let's get very much into the issues of intellectual property and being a good digital citizen. So in your video, there's, like any video, you're pulling together a number of different pieces, whether it's text or artwork or photographs you've taken, footage, anything like this. But let's get specific about what it is that you can do in this contest. For images and audio, there are specific sites you can get these from, but they are specified in the rules. We have people contact us and say, what about this other site? And it's one of those things. You can only use the sites listed in the rules. But this other site's great. You can only use this site in the rules. Is there ever an exception? You can only use the sites in the rules. Now, one of the big pieces here is you can do any of the stuff that of your own. So you can record audio on your own. You can use images that you've taken, and if it's footage, it has to be from you. So any footage, any recording video that you do is something that you must do yourself. It's not something that you would pull down from a website. Now, we want to see citations. And you might say, I don't need to do citations. All of it's from me. Cite yourself. Let everybody know where you got this stuff. This is part of the digital citizenship that we focus in on when we think about what it means to be a student in this far into the 21st century. We think of all of the student standards that are part of all the great work done by ISTE, and we're looking to promote that as a part of this festival. So make sure that there are citations. We have all sorts of different models for you in the rules, so we hope you'll give that a really strong look with your students as you jump into this. A few tips. The before you start into this is big. Sit down with your students and look at these rules and talk through it with them. You know, is it clear to you guys that this is an important piece of how these people are doing this particular film festival? And they should get into a space where they say, oh, okay, we got it. These particular sites for images and audio, everything else we do ourselves, that kind of thing. We're going to have to cite it. Now, when you take your own photos, by the way, you might actually end up editing them a bit, and that's totally fine as well. If you're looking for a particular image and you're like, well, I can't find it. I found it on this other site, but not this site. You know, take an image yourself. You know, get in and pull out that camera and do some creative work on your own, and you'll probably find out that you're doing yourself a lot of favors that way. Now, as I mentioned, there are credits listed, models for credits listed in the rules. Take a look. We're not working on MLA format or something like that. What we're trying to do is talk about, you know, who is responsible for this piece of work, what it's called, and the site from which you got it. So once you look at the models, you'll have a good sense of how that works. And then finally, when you are ready to show this to others, ask them first to go through a process of taking a look at it and letting you know if they see anything that they think may not conform to the rules, and talk that through together. You can always send us questions about something for which you figure it's a gray area and it's something that's just not clear to you. So you're welcome to ask us those questions. Now, we ask for an adult sponsor. So any student or group of students putting together a video that they're going to enter into the Global Student Voice Film Festival must have an adult sponsor. This is most of the time going to be a teacher, although if you're a homeschooler and you're working with a parent, that's okay as well. The adult sponsor is actually the one who will submit the film. All right, and that means that there's an entry form and that you'll be filling that out, and it makes a ton of sense for the student to be with the adult sponsor at the time that the entry is being submitted. That way, any questions you can talk through together. How do you submit it? Well, first thing you do is you upload it to YouTube, right? And then set the permissions to public, not private. We won't be able to see it, and we won't consider your video. And you might kind of stop and say, well, what about unlisted? Well, what we want to do is we want to emphasize that this is about audience. So for student voice to be the kind of voice that makes a difference in inspiring others, we want you to go public with your creative work. And so we're asking you to set this to public and to add the hashtag GSVFF. So that makes it much easier for us to be able to find it and for others to be able to find the works that are being shared. So you're setting a video that you have uploaded to YouTube to public, and you're adding the hashtag GSVFF. Now, in the submission form that the adult sponsor fills out, you'll add the link to the YouTube video. It's very important that you do that properly. That allows us to consider your video. It allows us to pass it along to judges when that time comes along. So make sure you're adding the proper link to the YouTube video that you have posted public and with the hashtag GSVFF. Now, like we mentioned before, but we will mention again, please be with the adult. So if you are a student listening to this recording, be with the adult sponsor when he or she does the form so that you are getting a good sense of anything that might be coming up for which you two may have questions. All right. Now, unlike a lot of film festivals, we actually go to the trouble of giving you some feedback. So there is an early deadline. An early deadline for this one is December the 17th, end of day, U.S. Pacific time. Any submissions that come in by that time will go through a process where we let you know, yes, you met the rules regarding sources and citations. And depending on the volume, we also hope to give you some ideas on how to make your video a little better. We hope that you'll take advantage of all of the people around you to do that as well. It is a very good move to get in and to say, hey, I want to show this to 5 different classmates, and they're going to give me advice. And then what I'm going to do is make a note of each piece of advice, thank them, and then be able to articulate, why I do or do not think it's good advice to follow, and that kind of thing. That can be a very good activity for a class. So teachers take note of that particular approach. So when we talk about the early deadline, that's specifically for the feedback. So once you have your feedback, you will be able to make some changes if necessary or if you want, and then get it in by the final deadline, which is Monday, February 18th, 2019, end of day, U.S. Pacific time. So please pay closest attention to the final deadline, Monday, February 18th. But we hope to get a number of you to submit before December 17th, so we can give you some ideas that might allow you to strengthen your submission. Now, in the realm of strengthening your submission, I want to hand this over to Kern Kelly of EdTechTeam, who can tell you a little bit about how to make your video stand out. Kern?
Thanks, Christian. So I'd like to talk a little bit about creating that winning film. We'll go through the first suggestion, jump down a slide here. I love this quote from Pixar: "No amount of technology can ever turn a bad story into a good one." So it's really important that this is not a focus about, who has the fancier camera necessarily, or who has the better, video editing software or anything like that. It really comes down to what story you can tell. Now, a minute is actually quite a bit of time. It feels like that might be too short, but you can tell a lot in a minute. And I also think it's really important and crucial for you to go and check out the videos that were winners last year. The winners, the honorable mentions, all those videos that we have right in that studentvoice.org. That's a great resource for you to go and check and look to see what things they did well. Which ones do you like? What would you do differently next time? It really kind of gets your feet wet and really kind of get started on those creative juices flowing, thinking about what you could do from your own standpoint. So kind of coming down to the nuts and bolts a little bit from a technological perspective, what we like to call the ABCs of videography. And this is just a real quick, short way if you're working with students. I have a broadcasting class that I work with every day, and they are, we're always thinking about what's the quickest way to make sure we don't forget something, and the order to do that. So we'll start with A. A stands for audio. And what the idea there is, regardless of your video, your audience can sometimes, forgive bad video. If you've ever been in a situation where you've watched a movie or watched a TV show, and let's say that the audio is out of sync, let's say the voices aren't quite lined up with the mouths that are moving on the screen, it's almost unwatchable. However, sometimes if there's like grainy video or video is not quite clear, you still can kind of make it out and you muddle through it. So really, that audio is really, really important. You want to make sure it's clear. You want to make sure it's loud enough. You really want to take that time to match, your music levels if you have those, or sound effects if you have those, with your audio, so that it all works together really seamlessly. So it's while video can be replaced with B-roll, audio is something you want to make sure is right the first time. Which leads us on into our B. So B stands for balance. And this is the idea of that when you're doing those shots, and of course there are whole courses, around film and the best shot to use in different situations, but you want to think about a variety of them: wide shots, medium shots, close-up shots. Using a tripod, you usually want to use that tripod and have it still, unless you have a very specific artistic reason not to. Another one that we've seen before that you want to think about is, although you might be shooting a video with a phone or that shape, that style, that vertical video, usually you wouldn't be watching it in that situation. So you want to think about that and make sure it's landscape. That's kind of a really quick one to solve. Again, unless you're going for a specific effect where you want to kind of mimic that idea of shooting from a phone. So those are just little things you want to think about, that balance of the videos and how you're using them. Which brings us back to the final step, the ABCs, is the camera. Now, this is the type of thing that if you're the director, if you're the student that's kind of in charge of this whole process, you want to do the double checking and making sure, is your camera ready to go? Is the battery charged? Is the audio all working? Do you have enough, memory if it's a digital camera, in your camera before you go? All these things you think about ahead of time, and take that few extra minutes before you get your actors out there, because we know, once they have to sit around and kind of wait for you, that's going to lost time that you could be using actually shooting footage. So it's worth taking a time and making that plan and making sure everything's set up before you even set out and starting your video. jump down to a few other kind of filmmaking tips. These are just ideas. Silent videos. You don't always have to have dialogue. Again, another really creative way to kind of think about how else can I tell my story in a different way that still conveys that idea. As we mentioned earlier, as Rushton mentioned, the theme for this year is activating change. So is there a way you could show that without dialogue? And again, that kind of maybe sets you apart. Creating your own music. Sure, there's many resources out there to grab, music that is created and copyright free, but you can customize your own music using something like Soundtrap or GarageBand, and that would make it so it exactly fits what you're trying to convey during that time frame. So if that's possible, that's another opportunity for students to work on that. The type of film, does it have to be a skit? Could it be, could it be animation? Could it be puppets or stop motion, or many different varieties there? It doesn't have to be, kind of the traditional, one camera shoot looking at two people side by side. Think about other ways you can kind of mix these things up and use them and have them so that they would, add value to your final product. Is your video appropriate for all audiences? This is very important that whatever's shown is something that we would be able to show to anybody. We mentioned earlier that the age range is 5 through 18. So certainly all the videos that would be acceptable would certainly be able to be viewed by an audience as young as 5 years old. And then finally, and this is a really difficult one, sometimes you want to put the time in ahead of time to think about this, is does your video have that clear message? If the theme, as we mentioned earlier, is that activating change, is what's very obvious to you, is that something that's obvious to your audience? That's where it's really helpful for you to get that feedback, for you to have other people look at your video, maybe friends or family, to kind of get their feedback and see, are they understanding what you're trying to convey with that film? And the more feedback you get, kind of the better it is. And that leads us back into, we mentioned only about getting feedback. If you submit your video before December 17th, we do have broadcasting or video production courses or classes that will provide some technical and kind of limited narrative feedback for you. So you can kind of get an idea of what worked really well from an audience that's really just there to try to help you. And depending on the volume and how many videos that we receive, we'll hopefully be able to do technical issues for you as well. So with that, I'm going to jump back to Rushton, ask for questions.
All right. If you have been taking this in and you have a question, feel free to add it to our list. We'll kind of start down our list and see what kinds of things you might be thinking about. One of the first would be, is it okay for a parent to be or a guardian to be like the adult sponsor? Yes, it is. It doesn't have to be a teacher. You can look and say, oh, I'm doing this kind of work with this particular parent as a part of a group that I'm a part of, or a club that I'm a part of. And that's totally fine. It just has to be an adult that we can communicate with reliably regarding your submission. So make sure that whoever the adult sponsor is for your video, this is somebody that when we contact that person, they'll be in touch with you as opposed to some stranger. Let's see what else we got. We're going on here, and we see that we ask about the video being public instead of unlisted. That too. That's one of those things, and where what we want is for students to think about audience, right? The whole idea for creating a video as a part of a festival is that you are expanding your audience. This is something that I say a lot in my speaking. When students know that others will see their work, they want it to be good. When it's just for the teacher, they want it to be good enough for that grade, right? And something about having that larger audience allows kids to think about possibilities with their work that somehow can slip by if it's just to jump through a hoop for a particular requirement for a class. So we're hoping to see some good things come from that as well. Other questions that you may have as we go. Let's see. Is travel? Oh, prizes, of course. So when we think about prizes, the biggest thing that we're doing here is highlighting the winning videos at an event at ISTE 19. So the International Society for Technology and Education has its big conference in late June every year. It goes around the United States. This coming year, it will be in Philadelphia. And so we had a number of students come and were celebrated for the good work that they did. We showed their videos to an audience there. Great stuff, right? So that's big. And there is some financial help available to teams that will be traveling in to do it. We can't tell you that we will pay all your expenses to get there or anything like that, but there will be some help, and the the first order of business is to make sure that you're just putting together a really good video, and then we can work with the more detailed pieces of that prize. See a good question here. Is there a limit to how large the group can be and still attend? No, but however much we're able to help you out with, that will be for your group, and however many you have, that obviously increases your expenses. So you can enter one of these. You can have an entry for the contest that is just you. It can be a group of 10 people putting something together. All good there. Do all students in videos need releases? Everybody who's identifiable in a video does need to have a film release put together for them. We have some models for that on the site. Do know that it is the adult sponsor who will assure us that they have these particular releases. If your video is one of the finalists, then we will get the adult sponsor to share those releases with us. But you do not need to send those initially. Where will ISTE be this year? Philadelphia. It goes around. We love the opportunity to see different parts of the country. It means that different people are attending. When the conference is in San Antonio, for example, lots of people in the south and southwest part of the country are going to show up. When it's in a place like Chicago, like it was this last year, lots of people from the Midwest make it over. And so one of the reasons that they travel around is to optimize participation there. And so we hope that wherever you are in the world, that you will be thinking in terms of the possibility of attending ISTE and being a part of this, especially if we'll be highlighting your video along the way. Let's see, do we have the dates for ISTE 19? The answer to that is yes. And let me make my way over to those so I can give those to you. I believe it's a little earlier than it was last year. And indeed, so it is Sunday through Wednesday, the 23rd to 26th of June. Sunday the 23rd of June through Sunday the 26th of June. So that's 2019, clearly. And we would love for you to be looking at that. Let's see. Have I made it through all of the questions? I am not seeing another one. So I think we're probably pretty good there. So let's kind of put our main bit back up. What I want to do is get the link in front of everybody, studentvoice.org, studentvoice.org, not voices, but voice, studentvoice.org. And then you can look for things on YouTube with the hashtag GSVFF. And you might say, but nobody's entered yet. But everybody entered last year, and you would be well served to get in there and to take a look at the kinds of things that went in. Last year's theme was In Another's Shoes. And I'll give you one final piece of advice before we wrap things up. In Another's Shoes meant that a lot of people were making videos about bullying, which is a perfectly good topic. It's an important thing to be discussing. But you do have to kind of stop and say, am I making a video that is going to be the same kind of interpretation that everybody else is doing? And if that's the case, which in large part it was, you look at the winning videos, and they were mostly videos that took a really interesting creative take on that theme, right? You might stop and say, what can we do that would be really creative in how we address the theme? When we talk about activating change, what does that mean? Because you've got loads of latitude. How you decide that is going to be the frame for your video, as long as it's clear to the people who end up judging it, you're fine. So what we hope is that we will get lots of different videos, lots of very interesting interpretations of the theme, that everyone will remember these rules, especially about sources and citations, that they will keep their videos to the right length. They will remember that it's for an audience of 5 to 18 years old, so it has to be appropriate for all audience. And you get that idea. Okay, that's how we put all of this together. So with that, I would like to thank everybody who has participated in our chat as a part of the webinar. We hope that in watching this recording, you who are students watching this and getting a sense of, we're going to give this a shot, do know a little extra time, on how to make it cool, and the chances are very good that you will end up with a very strong submission. So we wish you luck as we do this. So for Kern Kelly of EdTechTeam and Nathan Langrad of WeVideo and all the good folks that support us at ISTE, This is Rushton Hurley of nextvista.org, and we hope to see your submission in our contest very soon. Take care.